Primavera. Thank you so much, pal, for coming on.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here. Glad to be a part of the climb.
I love it. And for everyone, we also have a third wheel here. Rover's at the bottom corner, nudging my hand. So that's kind of what you see here. And I know Vince is no stranger to Rover Man. So,
What's up, Rev? How you doing, bud?
oh, Vince. So thanks for coming on. And for people that don't know Vince, he has quite a great experience working with kids and students as a health teacher for years, different school districts, so a lot of different environments. I had the pleasure to come in and talk to Vince's students a few years when he was still working in the public schools around here in Bucks County. So, we talked about it before we launched here, but Vince has experienced a lot in general with mental health education, but seeing it firsthand through his students and him kind of being a frontline mental health worker, giving the information, but also being there for his students. So, Vince, I want to start off by just thanking you for all that you've done for the kids. I know you've made quite a difference on the ones that I've spoken with. So,
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, glad to hopefully made some sort of impact in some kids' lives along the way.
absolutely. And I know you've had a variety of different experience with your careers, but what kind of, I guess, want to throw a random question out here. What kind of made you want to go into the health field at first? I know you're no longer in there, but I know I could just feel just from our conversations that it was rewarding to work with some kids, and I'm curious if there's anything more to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was more just like being able to like have an impact. I think like for me, I'm kind of like a people person. I like to talk to people. I like to, get to know them and build that rapport. No matter like it doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't have to be in a professional setting. So I think for me, it was kind of just like, fate kind of drove me that way. I had my degree. I applied it in the actual, I was an exercise physiologist for a little bit, doing all that, and I just felt like, it was driving me to be a little bit more impactful on the youth. So really, I guess just getting my degree and being able to go back and teach, and I did have a really great career, and I really appreciate everything I did, and I think some of the feedback I've even gotten from students, and if they are watching, like, hey guys, miss you guys, but um, I think some of the feedback that I have gotten from students is really, telling that story. I've had kids come to me and say, thank you for telling me, your story of even jumping from, one career to come to be able to be a teacher and make that leap and take that leap of faith. And, um, it kind of does, like, it makes you look at it and be like, all right, maybe I am doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And just, so really, I guess to answer your question is why I got into it, just to be able to like help people. You know what I mean? Like I like to talk to people. Um, so it just so happened that health was part of it, and and teaching was a great opportunity for me. So you
Yeah.
know,
I mean, anyone that studies exercise physiology or exercise science or kinesiology and college, like both of us, and getting a degree in that necessarily to their core wants to help someone. And sometimes when you're just really hooking someone up to a VO2 max machine on a treadmill, maybe that doesn't just scratch the itch of helping someone. So I definitely can compare to that, urge to help others and just in general, like, kind of going through the same similar studies that you have, at Temple and I had at Ithaca. It seems like there's a bigger story than what the textbooks are letting out. There's a human element to physical health and emotional health and mental health. And, almost like they can all be connected and a story that maybe we didn't hear when we were, high school age and, we're learning things in college by textbook, but, in real world kind of learning, hey, maybe there's more to it. So, I mean, what's your take on that?
yeah, no, that's like a great point because like even in school, like when I was teaching, um, you know, if I knew like a kid had a test, I would tell them like, listen, go for a walk, go for a run, like get some sort of blood flow because like there's actually a scientific study that shows that if you do work out, you are going to be more inclined to, have a better attitude going into whatever you're doing, more energy. So
Hmm.
yeah, like I wish like it was hit on more when, like, we were in school, but I maybe the science wasn't there. I don't know. But I know that, like, the physical connection, the emotional connection really is there. You can tell, I can tell for myself, even like, if I miss a day in the gym, I could tell my energy's a little bit lower. I'm a little bit more tired. I kind of feel a little bit more sluggish. So, like, having that physical mental connection, and like being able to say, listen, if you work out more, the better emotionally you're gonna feel. You're gonna notice that. You're gonna feel better in your own body. Eating I use this example with kids all the time. I was like, I love Chick-fil-A. Who the hell doesn't love Chick-fil-A, right? So, like, go eat Chick-fil-A, and then tell me you want to be a productive human being the rest of the day. You probably don't, because Chick-fil-A, not for nothing, it's, not the healthiest meal you're going to eat. So you're going to feel a little bit more sluggish. You're going to lay on the couch and do nothing. But, like, go eat, like, make a nice healthy piece of chicken, or eat a salad, and I guarantee you're going to be able to want to do more. So it's just even putting, like, your health first in that sense gives you that energy, gives you that ability to do more stuff. And if you do more stuff, you're going to feel better emotionally. You're going to feel better, in that drive. And at the end of the day, like, I know I look back at my days and I'd be like, wow, like, even now, I'm like, I just was so productive on, like, a Saturday that I definitely didn't want to do anything. Got up, cut my lawn, did whatever, and it feels great. So,
Yeah.
um, I
Yeah.
do wish there was more of, like, a connection, I guess, in school, like, to tell kids, like, listen, it, don't, not to not be lazy, but, like, get out there, get through something, because it's gonna make you feel better. You're gonna be emotionally better, and mentally you're gonna feel so much more, like, relief, and just, like, that stress, right, like, getting off of you. You're like, all right, this is great. They may fall in love with, the gym, like, kind of like how, you and I did.
Yeah.
So
Dude, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's like it was so well put, everything you just said there. And I feel like there is always symptoms, right? People are stressed out, so they have a headache or they're anxious or this, that. Okay, well, there's things that you can do, immediately to help out with your headache, and you want to take Tylenol, but hey, why don't we look at the root cause of it? You're maybe stressed. Look at what's going on. Well, how can we work on the stress? We can go for that walk when you need to
right,
take it. Hey, maybe we can exercise a little bit. We can do a little bit of breathing. We cannot run from one class to the next. If you need a break, take it. Go take it. Go take a minute for yourself. And I feel like that connection, right, is what's so pivotal. Something that if we had when we were younger, it could certainly help us avoid a lot of struggle. And
yeah,
I think that's like, at least from all the times that I've spoken in your classes, really you've kind of given that opportunity for your kids to not only just not be kids, students and peers, and to be, hey, Mr. P, open dialogue, and really kind of come to you because you're leveling with them, and being honest, and that connection with the mind, body, and soul is genuinely a thing.
yeah. And I think, like, like, one of my big things when I was teaching was to, like, not have kids look at me as this, like, oh, he's a teacher, and he's this authority figure. It's like kind of getting on their level, because when you get on their level, they relate to you a little bit better in that sense. And, like, when they see your vulnerabilities, and, like, that's kind of what I brought to the class. I was like, listen, I've had my struggles. I've whether it was, have I been down, on a couple days in a row? Absolutely. Especially, you know, in life, us growing up, we've had all these a whole slew of struggles, whether it's people passing away, animals passing away, friends moving, all these different things that are affecting your life. And, these, they're kids, they're in that high school bubble, or, whatever bubble they're in. And it's listen, be prepared. Things are going to happen, and you're going to have bad days. And the kind of thing that I always told people was, it's okay to have, like, I use it in a school sense, like a C average day, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're you're not always going to have an A day. You may even have an F day once in a while, but, like, the goal is to not have that consistently. And if you are having, C, 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 figure out a way to make it that A, right? So, like,
Yeah. Hmm.
like, I always talked about recognizing the SADS ladder: stress, anxiety, depression. and then suicide if at that last piece. So like if you recognize you're at stress, to avoid that, to figure out a way to de-stress. Go read a book, go watch a movie, go on a run, figure out what makes you happy. So
Love
um
it.
yeah, I mean, it's you really just got to find out ways to kind of to get the stress out and get your chickens in a row, right?
Yeah,
So
we both know that. Before I kind of get to that, like, hey, the foundational spot that we can all get to and that we all need to find. Debbie Venus mentioned on the podcast, months ago about her experience working with elementary school students, and she used the word "get on their level," and she actually, mentions it a few times through the climb, and something that you just mentioned too. And sometimes when you're dealing with younger people, you physically have to get down to their level for them to see eye to eye and understand that you're caring about them. But I think what you said shouldn't be, breezed over, because if you can't get to a level of your student, or have them respect you enough to essentially say, hey, he's been where I've been, or I appreciate them, then what's going to happen in a moment of crisis? They're going to just stay to themselves
right.
and not get the potential help that they've needed. And that's something that we have experienced together. And not to go into the details, but that is so crucial, where kids are truly, and people aren't empowered to kind of speak up about their own struggles that they're dealing with. And the more people, professionals, adults, or just in general peers, that are leveling with someone, even if it's like, hey, AJ, I don't have bipolar disorder, but like I certainly struggle with this, that right there. Anyone that's willing to talk to me about their issues, I automatically respect, because vulnerability, as you mentioned, Vince, is so hard. But when someone lets their guard down, it could mean the world to that other person.
Yeah, and I think, being vulnerable, like for whatever reason, the stigma has it that being vulnerable is like a weak trait, but I think being vulnerable is actually probably one of the strongest traits you can have, right? Like even just being able to like I know there's I have a handful of friends that I can just totally reach out to and be like, listen, like today's not my day, or I can give them a call and just be like, let me just vent, and then I'm gonna hang up. Like I don't want your response. I just want to get it off my chest. And I think like being able to have that vulnerability and like being able to like express that should be more like praised and talked about. And I think like that was one thing that I definitely was bringing to the classroom. I even, I made my classroom in a sense like its own little, home away from home. I had a couch in there. I had like, these comfortability, this comfortable atmosphere that kids can come to and be like, this is like my de-stress zone, and this is, and if they see me being vulnerable, they're like, yeah, this is my area that I can let loose, and I can talk to, like they were talking to me about, their problems, or, relationship stuff and all this stuff. And it was, you know, uh, to them, it's the world. And you know what I mean? You have to understand that, and understand that that is affecting, them emotionally in some capacity. So, what's the way to kind of help them and show them that, what they are talking about, and that vulnerability that they are talking about is, gonna benefit them in the long run. And they may not see it right now, but I promise they will see it. I wish that I could see it in the moment. But you always see, hindsight's 2020. So
Yeah, you never know where, like, what Mr. P told someone when they were, sorry, I had something come up. You don't know what Mr. P told them back in, when they were 15, how that sits with them, right? And
yeah,
I think that was what was so important for me to come in and talk to the kids, and kind of like why I like doing that is because, I mean, I wish I had someone like Mr. P, or wish I had someone like AJ standing in front of my class, pouring his guts out and sharing that story, because who knows, right? Maybe I would still struggle, but maybe not as much. So I think that's really important. I have to apologize. I laughed. And I want to tell you why I laughed in the middle of your vulnerability thing. One, I love vulnerability. I think it's like a superpower of mine. But you said something along the lines of like you want to show that you're vulnerable so people can come and talk to you, right? And be open to that. So I laughed because I take people up on that offer, but it's very funny. And Vince, I'm going to call you out. A couple months ago, I called you up. I texted you. We were talking, and I was venting. You were the shoulder that I was hypothetically crying on. And at the end of the conversation, and I laughed because this just happened to me yesterday with a person close to me. They ended the call saying, "You can always come talk to me." That's what I was doing. I'm coming to talk to
Right.
you. So, but here's the thing, you have always kept that door open, and I find that to be when someone's ending the conversation on that, it's essentially them saying, "I'm always here for you, you can always come talk to me about it." And it's you never know when that person is going to use that card. And I think that's why it's funny because it kind of catches people maybe they're in the moment they're not fully understanding how beneficial they're being for the other person. And I laughed because we were in that similar state, you for me, a couple months ago, and I vividly remember, "Hey, buddy, you can always come talk to me." And I said, "That's why I'm here."
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
mean, and sometimes like I guess sometimes like for me it's like, I don't want to put my input, you know what I mean? I want you to get what you're getting out, and then that's it, you know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
kind of like I don't want me to like influence whatever you're saying in whatever capacity. So, but you know what I mean? Like you're right, like having just being able to be like, listen, even if I'm not giving you what you need and or
hmm
whatever, I'm here. I listen. If you want a response, be like, yo, like, what's your opinion? That. But it's good to just be able to say to anybody, listen, I'm here. Talk to me.
yeah.
Whether or not So
And you definitely you did this in your own way, but something I like to do often is when someone reaches out to me, I make sure now I don't end with I say something on the lines. You can always continue to reach out to me, but I actually commend people on their strengths. For instance, I had a student of one of the public schools you were working for reach out to me, and I ended with basically saying, "This is extremely strong of you to reach out to me. This is something I wouldn't have been able to do." So when first off you're that open canvas or someone, that's fantastic. But then if you can finish it with appreciating the strength that they're showing, because at the end of the day it may be like, "Oh man, you never come talk to me about your feelings," but you may be the only person that they come to, and they may have taken them months to realize. So to recognize their vulnerability and the strength of that, like you said, Vince, is I think super important. And it's like a chain reaction, because they're going to do it to other people, and it's just going to keep passing, like whisper down the lane in the best possible way.
yeah, you really don't have any, at times you really don't know what impact you're putting on people. And I used to tell this story when I was teaching, and it's so like it's so simple, but it was like to me it was the most impactful. I almost get like emotional when I talk about it. That um I read this story one time where this kid was, school was ending. And I think this really resonates with school students, specifically high school, because, of the context. But, school's ending, bell rings, and, the student goes and he gets all his books, every book out of his locker, and he's kind of carrying them out. And, he's just doing his thing and walking out. And as he's walking out, going out the door, he bumps into somebody and drops all of his books. And that person that he bumped into said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Hey, let me help you. Let me pick you up. Are you okay? Whatever." And just that, "Hey, are you okay?" In that one split second, like, "Hey, are you okay?" That it must have resonated with that student somehow, some way. And he just and his response was, which was the most shocking part. He said, "You know what? Honestly, like I'm. Thank you for asking if I'm okay. I'm not. I just cleaned out my locker because I was going home to commit suicide, and I didn't want my mom or dad to come and get all my stuff. So I was kind of, and it's like in that big like that in that moment, it seems so minuscule to that person just be like, hey, are you all right? But to that one person, that could be the world. And you know what I mean? Like you have
Yeah.
to look at it like just one little olive branch can, it could be a tree for another person. So you really do you don't know the impact you are really implying on people. So um
That's a great story, and really, really touching, but also really effective, simple action. Like
yeah.
just, and then when it comes down to it, this person is just being a human, and
Right. Right.
being kind and nice, and it seems like we get away from that, especially with. I mean, I don't know your experience in this, but especially in this day and age of a lot of people, whether their heads in their phones or even hand up. Sometimes on walks with Rover, like I just need to be by myself. Um, but I notice like when I'm my best self, even though when I need my like moments by myself, I'm always gesturing, "Hey, how you doing?" to the people walking by. And if I'm not doing that, then hey, man, something's up with me because I think that's just being a human being is recognizing other people. And man, great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, man. And you're right. Like sometimes you also have to just realize like just be a good human being, and you don't know what look introspectively, and you're gonna be like, listen, like if I can be a good person, I can reflect on this other person, and that is contagious in itself, and you never know who you're impacting, and where what somebody's going through. So, um, just be there for people. It's like not the hardest thing in the world. It really
Yeah.
isn't. So, being a you're right. Just being a simple, good human being is it's gonna be great for you and for other people. So it's a good message, I guess, for the world out there. Just be a good person.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Is there anything that you've taken away, like just being the health teacher of maybe like about yourself? Because that's, you're in a role of selflessness, trying to help others, trying to be there for young teens. And I think that probably could give you, even though that you're no longer in that field, it's probably given you a lot of opportunities to self-reflect and learn a little bit within.
Yeah, I think so. Every person you meet has something to teach you. So, like, I think when I was teaching, one thing that I really got, like, that really I kind of took away from it was every single person has a different story. And, like, you don't know, like, how hard someone's life is or how easy their life is and why they're acting the way they're acting and whatever that is. So, for me, like, one thing I really got out of that was go into every situation, every conversation with an open mind. Try and understand where that person's. You're never ever going to be able to walk in someone's shoes ever. Unless you are that person, you can't. And so the best option you have is to be able to try and understand, and just listen and be there for whatever they are talking about. And like I think us as humans, we run into this problem that when people talk to us, we listen just to respond. We don't listen to like understand. And I think like for me, that's like one thing I really took away from it is like I listen to you and I understand what you're saying, and I'm gonna do my part to, you know, whatever it is to kind of just like either help you out, or if you just want to like I don't care what it's we're gonna talk about, a sports game, like that is what it is, but be there to like understand and kind of react in that situation. So that's one thing that I personally took away from it, and I think that helped me out. um on my own. I think like one of my big like mental struggles was like sometimes I would just like before I was teaching, I would just listen to people, and like I would leave that conversation and be like, I have no idea what that person just said.
Mhm.
I didn't not, and it's not even like I didn't care or whatever. I just don't know, and I think it was just because, and like I talked. I talk a lot, so. I think like that was one thing that teaching kind of really taught me was, be present, take a step back, take that breath, be present for whatever that person is trying to tell you, and just understand them.
Yeah, that's a unbelievable point. I feel as if I've heard this before, but people, like you said, they like just listen for their own response. But on top of that, they try to find common ground that they can feel like they belong in like a conversation, like, oh my God, yeah, that happened to me too. But when you say and like turn it back on yourself, it's like, well, who was telling the story? You know,
Right.
were you really listening? Were you really appreciating it? And it's like, well, you know, like not to be selfish, but this wasn't about you. This was about me and
Yeah.
what I was saying and everything. And I think like, you know, like going into that, and you had a few different nuggets in there that's really good, but that whole like listening and being present and like a reflective listening is a huge, you know, piece of it. Just shows that you care about the other person too,
Right.
and that you're not like worried about what they would say or do with the response that you have. So really, really appreciate you bringing that up. And then the other piece you brought up was the whole keeping an open mind, which it feels as if we are in a culture that has two minds. You know, politically left and right, right, wrong. You know, it's just toxic, really. And I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but Adam Grant has a book called Think Again, and it's about that very concept of having an open mind and having and thinking about things like a scientist. And hey, if you think the sky is purple, then you need to see if you can prove that it's blue. So if you can fully see the other side of things, you can stand on the ground of the other one.
Yeah.
So much so that the story I've mentioned before is the creator of BlackBerry. Did you have a BlackBerry? Or you were an Envy guy, right?
I no,
Envy and Razor.
I was a Razor.
Razor.
I had the Razor. Yeah. Yeah. I was never a BlackBerry. I wasn't up to date on the technology back then.
God, that just makes me think of hockey for us in high school. We were a bunch of losers.
Oh my god, dude, what a time though. Like, I mean, but like you look back, it's so great. Like it was great. It
Yeah.
was a great time.
Wouldn't take it back. Moral of the story, though, the creator of BlackBerry was brought, I guess, a prototype or the Apple iTouch iPod and the first iPhone, and one of his engineers, is like, "Hey, we have to adapt. This is the future." And he said, "No way, it's going to be BlackBerry." And you know, as you guys know, there's no Blackberries out there right now that people are really using, and it's all iPhones. So kind of just makes you, you know, put your point, you know, really hammered home. Keeping an open mind, you never know.
Yeah, yeah. You really gotta, and take what people are telling you. Like, what people are telling you may be, a little bit on your plate, but to them it's a lot. So, you know, like you said, like it could be a little thing, and like if he just listened to one person, he could have, he could be the iPhone. So just listen to what
Mhm.
people have to say, and you maybe have to adjust your course a little bit, and see where it goes.
Yeah. And it goes back to your other point about just being kind. Like if you're actively listening to someone and someone knows that you are, then that feels good. But sorry, Rover's hair just went flying all over the place because I'm petting him. Um, but if you're not, then that's like you don't know what kind of day that person's having, and it could be a huge sign of disrespect. Just to kind of tie all your points together. So.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
but
I have one thing to end on here. So, for those who don't know Vince closely, he's no longer working as a health teacher. He's in the police force of Philadelphia, and in the academy. So we won't grill him about his experience just yet. But he taught mental health. I would have to imagine that there's some sort of training in the academy around mental health. So, Vince, my question to you, and we'll end on this. I really like this. It was the SADS, stress, anxiety, depression, suicide.
yep, SADS ladder. Yeah,
All right, you can't use that. I love that. Everyone remember that. Everyone remember the SADS ladder. If there's one takeaway that you can provide the audience in regards to the mental health knowledge that you've accumulated over the years, and we know it's been personal and professional, what would one of those things be?
I would say just talking. I think, so we're kind of taught like to compartmentalize a little bit, and I think everyone kind of does that in their own personal world, but definitely in my new career path, I'm gonna have to. But I think, the one thing that we are constantly told about, and the one thing that I feel like I talked about when I was teaching was have, whether it's one person, two people, have somebody to go talk to. Don't bottle it up. You end up kind of like I used to use the analogy of like a volcano. Like, one problem may just seem like a small problem, and then it's like it keeps building and building and building and building. And like, because you're not, talking about it, you're not getting it out, that problem's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's eventually going to, that what one small little problem is going to blow up, and you're going to have this huge problem. So being able to like talk to people and just like to vent, to even if it's just like a quick like, hey, here's my day, like do that. And so I forget who said it, but it was like, there's two ways to kind of get that out, and it's your lips and your hand, your lips and tips, as they call the fingers, right? So like you can write, whether it's journaling, you know what I mean? There, get it out. Find out whatever is bothering you. Find out what's, eating you up inside, or even if it's not eating you up just yet, get it out early enough that it's not going to get to that point. So like for me, communicating, finding, that support system, that trustworthiness in one, two, three people, whoever it is. And like for me, I know like I go to certain people for certain things, and it may sound weird, but like for me, it's like I know like this person can handle this situation better than this person, and I think this person can handle this situation better. So like, whether it was relationship stuff, or financial stuff, or just like mental health and mental health awareness and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I have different outlets, and I know who those outlets are. And when those things come up, I do talk about that, and I don't let that bother me anymore, and I don't let that bottle me up, because I did struggle with being able to like, like get that out. And I think especially in my career path, that's what we're told now is this job's going to eat you alive if you don't get that out, because, we see some traumatic stuff, and it's being able to, get that out and not hold on to that and go to sleep at night and seeing some horrible stuff in your mind. So, that would be my takeaway, compiling both teaching and my current career path and personal life all up in one, and just saying like have some sort of support system, whether it's like I said, like I do, have multiple outlets, one outlet, whoever it is, find that person, get talking, get writing, do something to better yourself, and don't bottle it up. That would be my summation of that.
Fantastic. And guess what? I gotta unpack it because it was so good. That was so
Let's
good.
do it. Let's do it.
I first off, I couldn't agree anymore. The fact, I want to not only just unpack it, but I want to just confirm for all people listening and watching that you do this in real life, and it is true. And so I want to just say that talking, that is such an easy thing to do, but yet so hard for so many people.
Right.
And how you've made it comfortable for me, and I notice this in general with your students. One, you are authentically yourself, and you're always authentically yourself, and that helps really with that vulnerability piece. It helps with connection. It really is something that people can appreciate, that people know what they're going to get when they talk with Vince or Mr. P. And I really remember a moment in your class where you were mentioning our website, Team Garbo. And it was a topic that is probably difficult for people to have around mental health, but everything and how it sounded out of your mouth was just the same conversation any other day. Like, hey, tell me about the basketball tryout. Hey, this is what we were talking about. And I think when you can be your authentic self like you are, Vince, it makes it easy for you to talk to someone, but also vice versa for them to talk to you. So I
Yeah.
have to give you all the credit there. And I want to say that the outlets thing, I don't want people to breeze by that because that's one of the more mature things you could say about how you're handling yourself, but also how you're handling other people. Not everyone is privy to the same conversation as the next. And speaking of my own experience, I would drive myself up the wall trying to have the same conversation with 10 different people. And it took me a very long time. And with that came so much stress. It almost like it didn't help. It made things worse because I
Right.
didn't have the correct outlets and I didn't know who to. I know I could talk to everyone, so I just talked to everyone about everything, and that's not helpful. Some people are meant for some conversations and others are not. And I think when you listen back to this and hear Vince talk about outlets, you can tell that he's been through the similar thing of, hey, I've learned the hard way. So listen to me when I say it's important to talk, but find that person that can handle this. And that's why like Team Garba is a thing, right? I'm very grateful. And Vince is part of the team. Vince is, a root, right? We all have these deep roots and there's no reason to fear the wind. It's all about branching out, right? But you got to have the right people in place. You can't have all your weight on one single route with all different people. So really, really, really great stuff, Vince. I mean, did I summarize it correctly, especially referencing you and how you've kind of put it into play in life?
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of, hit on something that I feel like I don't even recognize, but it's just be yourself. You know what I mean? Don't
Yeah.
don't try and like play this like facade and act and listen. Be yourself. If people don't want to be around you, that's their choice. But and one other thing is like you're right, like using multiple outlets and being able to talk to like you were like talking to one person, blah 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 blah, but like it may take you, 3, 4 tries to find that person. Don't think like I can't talk to this person about, finances. I can't talk to this person about finances. I can't talk to, and it's like, okay, but there is somebody out there. Keep trying. Don't give up. Like you never know how close you are to that diamond. So just just keep pushing. To me, it is what it is. It's a struggle in its own, but um, that's life, right? You gotta struggle you gotta go through the lows to get to the highs, or else the highs aren't feeling as good, right? So, what was it? It was like Kobe. Kobe said, like like I would never be where I was if I didn't fall. So, like you
Yeah.
got to you got to be you got to be at your lowest to get to your highest. So,
Oh yeah, man. It's all about the climb, baby.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, Vince, I think we can end there. That was fantastic. We still could go on about many things, and we will. But really, really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate, kind of just to finish with this. This is the kind of guy that Vince is, and shows him his authentic self. The last time I got out of the hospital, legitimately, maybe 15 minutes after I got access to my cell phone, I got a call from Vince. And Vince's tone did not break stride from the same conversation I had with him maybe a month prior or a couple weeks prior for me going into the hospital. And I think, take a page out of Vince's book, authentically be yourself, keep the lines of communication open, and just be kind. So thank you for doing that, brother. I love you.
Yeah, man, love you too, and glad to be a part of the team, and you know, everyone, let's join the climb
Always.
together. You know what I mean?
Always. Always, man. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining.